Hello, everybody, and it is showtime. Welcome to the Street Angel Show. My name is Mandolyn Reese, and this is the launch of my season 5 of my Angel Talk Show. My talk show has always been devoted to helping others in the world, to raise awareness, to educate, talk about fun stuff, enlighten people. I really love all different topics, and this season we're going to kind of talk about everything, or maybe it's always been that way, but like love, relationships, health, spirituality, all kinds of cool stuff. um, Allow me to kind of introduce myself. So I've been running around the country for over 8 years now, promoting positive messages, mostly kindness, but also other ones. You just have to look at my social media to see them all throughout time. I made 2 new ones I wanted to show everybody. So this one's actually really important for what's happening in the world right now. But we, the people, need more unity. Um, and I just want to say this like randomly, but I think it would be great if we had more unity under God, like our original, Pledge of Allegiance under God. So it's like we're having a lot of strife and stuff in this country, and like we need to have more prayer. And so just saying. Next one is great timing for Valentine's Day coming up. Tell somebody you love them. It's important to tell people you love them because you never know when people, that could be the last time you see them. Life is unpredictable like that. Death is unpredictable. Like, tell people you love them if you love them. And, it could be really meaningful. And even if it's not returned, hey, at least you tried, and you can know that you tried. So I wanted to say a quick prayer. Just there's a lot of dark times happening right now, and the media can really stress you out with all this pandemic and this raid on the Capitol. And I just want to say that I want to pray for everybody who's stressing out and pray for everybody who is suffering, not just in our communities and in our country, but the whole world is like going through something weird right now. And I just wanted to put that out there that, just if we could all just get closer to God during this time and unify at least in that, I think it would be a really positive thing. And may this year, 2021, be the year that everybody can step into their highest power, more empowered self, and do more works of harmony, beauty, creativity for a better world and a better life for themselves, their family, their friends, and the whole world. So I just wanted to say that. Okay, so let's move into the next thing. So with this season 5, episode 1, I have my dear friend Scott Katamas. I'm having him again because, to be honest with you, I did not finish the questions that I really was burning to ask him. On my so it was season 4, episode 1 that I had him as my first guest. So if you want to go watch that, get kind of freshened up on that. I mean, it's obviously a little bit old stuff, but then again, it's not. So anyway, I'm going to bring in Scott, and we're going to kind of continue. We're going to try to keep the show around an hour. He might need to step out a little early. So let me bring Scott in. Hey.
Hello there, dear one. How are you?
I'm good. What's new with you?
Gonna turn on my other light. Well, this is the fourth online show that I've been on in the last 24 hours.
Wow.
The first 3 I hosted. This one I don't have to host. I just get to be a guest. So
All right.
and of course, I think like all of us, really shaken by what happened this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, Mandy, one of the things you and I have in common is that we both really want to make a difference in the world. We both feel very called to show up. And so when things like Wednesday and all the implications of Wednesday happen, we want to show up. And so I've been really looking at that.
Yeah.
And
you've been showing up hard. It's like you've been putting all this energy channeled hard into your work, and it's really beautiful. So good props to you and the global peace thing you're doing. And but let me give you a proper introduction.
Okay.
Scott Thomas is like the founder of Love Coach Academy, but he's also an epic talk show host. He runs multiple shows. He interviews really mega people. I mean, this guy rubs all over like Marianne Williamson and Michael Beckwith and let's see, which one's the Venus, Mars?
John Gray, Greg Braden, Yeah, yeah. We've had them all.
Too, but you're like all y'all are in the same clique, and you like
Yeah.
have these cool shows together, and I'm like, sweet. But yeah, I just wanted to say that about you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we actually had Marianne Williamson on our kind of the big show that I do is Saturday Night Live for the Global Peace Tribe, and probably most of you have watched it or heard about it. We had Marianne on last night, actually. And it was actually, we should have had you on now that I think about it, because the topic was miracles and angels. So we had all sorts of people talking about miracles and angels, and Marianne's leading a Course in Miracles class a daily class for 365 days. So we had her talking about Course in Miracles, and she, was very, very powerful. And now that I think about it, like, gosh, I should have had the street angel on.
Maybe next time.
Definitely next time, because we will do. The show was really popular. We had thousands of people watching, and people loved it. So yeah, definitely, I'll have you on the next one.
Some of your shows have had thousands and thousands of viewers. I look at them like, whoa.
Yeah. On Unify, just checked, and we're at over 10,000 views on Unify alone. Now that's the biggest one that carries us, but we have about 200 shares, different Facebook groups and pages that carry the Saturday Night Live show. So we estimate that all told, we get about 50,000 views. And a view on Facebook means that somebody watched it for at least 10 seconds. Now, that it's more than scrolling. They have to click on it. So for it to count as a view, they have to actually click on it and watch it. It can't just be scrolling up in their news feed. So yeah, it's, we're reaching a lot of people, and it's so important what you're doing, Mandy. I'm a big fan of yours, and you have a great heart.
Cool. I mean, I really appreciate you gave me that shout out on Unify that one time. I was like, oh, somebody cares about my mission.
Yeah.
I have to share a random story. Like, there was this one time I was in LA, and actually it was Santa Monica. They had this mega producers meeting. I'm talking about big name people from all over the world came to this directors convention, and I crashed it in my angel outfit, all white outfit, big wings, brought my posters in. I go into this place. Of course, I'm the only one that looks like the way I looked, and people are craning their necks at me. Nobody really cared much about the show or what I was doing with my mission. I did have a couple people talk to me, and one guy rescued me from getting thrown out. He came over and he gave me a free badge. But most of the people that I interacted with, it's all they cared about was making horror movies. That was the theme I kept hearing over and over and over, and all these different cliques and circles talking was horror movie this, horror movie that. And I'm like, well, no wonder our world's so screwed up. All they care about is horror movies. It's how negative and dark and evil and stuff is that? It's why can't we make shows about missionary work and love, peace, unity, Mother Teresa? I don't know. I'm just going, I feel like I'm going off on a tangent, but today's topic was supposed to be jealousy and other love juicy stuff. Unless you want to add whatever I just talked about.
Well, I do want to acknowledge the beauty of what you're saying, because look, we're living in this is it. These are the great transformational times that we've all been preparing for a long time. And of course, it's important to take time off. And a lot of our forms of entertainment are shut down. Movie theaters are closed throughout the country pretty much. Obviously, there's no festivals, there's no concerts, there's no sporting events, there's no big public events. There's not even parties, right? So
a lot of weddings and funerals are even weird, tiny now.
Yeah, people that are dying can't have people at the hospital to be with them as they die. I mean, it's a crazy time.
Very
and the country is very polarized between blue and red. And so there is a need for entertainment, but there is also really a need for what you provide, Mandy, and what I provide, and what Love Coach Academy, the people that are probably watching this show. We recognize that, okay, hey, we've got to really choose compassion. And we need to share tools and practices to help us through these challenging times.
Mm-hmm. And leading into the topic, so many people being stuck at home with quarantine issues or work from home orders or flat out unemployed because they were laid off, because like so many people have lost their jobs during this insane pandemic time. We got people at home and they are forced to be in their relationships way more than maybe they were before. And so it could amplify the issues because they're spending more time, and it could be quality time or it could be really negative. It could be like, and you're in a domestic violence situation and it's just gotten 12 times worse. But that is the sad and extreme, you know, but it's like being stuck at home a lot more, which a lot of people are, can force them to have these confrontational issues with their partner more. You know what I'm saying? It just could happen more.
Well, it is. I mean, the statistics are out. You know, we're into the 11th month almost of the pandemic, and domestic violence is way up. Alcoholism is way up. Drug addiction is way up.
Suicides.
Yeah.
Mental health, depression.
Mental health challenges. I mean, it's because of everything you said. You know, people are stuck at home, and most of their forms of entertainment and distraction, other than being on computer, has been cut out or cut way down. You know, Mandy and I both have a friend. She's a love coach. And early on in the pandemic, she had a girlfriend who was beaten to death by her girlfriend's husband. And they were drunk, and they apparently had a fight, and he hit her, and she fell and cracked her head open on the furniture and died. And it really early on made us realize, oh, wow, this is going to, as long as this pandemic is going on, all those things are going to be increased, including jealousy. And I know that jealousy is what you wanted to talk about. And so,
things, yeah. Among several things, but jealousy was something that I think a lot of people struggle with, because when you really love somebody, I think underneath there's this mega fear of loss, and that it's the fear that has all of these sub traits, which is the jealousy, possessiveness, controlling behavior, abuse. It could be, and the abuse could run any gambit of physical, mental, emotional, sexual. You know, so it's like it's hard for people to have to deal with, because relationships can be really tough and confusing. And you know, as love coaches, I think we've gone through some really challenging things. I almost feel like God gives us really challenging relationships just because we are love coaches, and it's like, all right, well, what are you going to do about this issue? How are you going to accomplish that? And when, you know, you're like, you know, some of the stories I've heard from you, Scott, which I don't want to use any names, but I would like to, you know, ask you a couple things.
Sure.
Are you ready?
Yeah, but I just want to say for a moment that what you just said is really important for people to realize.
Yes.
When we're feeling jealous or somebody else is feeling jealous, it's fear of loss. And in any relationship, to the degree that there's hurt, anger, pain, is the degree that that person is missing love. And it's really important to remember that. We are as angry at our partner or our ex as we are missing the love. We are as hurt, as scared, as jealous as we are afraid of losing the love. And so the key is to humbly acknowledge, well, I'm having a fear story right now. I'm having a jealousy moment right now. I'm having anger right now. And underneath it is, I love you so much, and I'm afraid of losing you. Or I love you so much, and I miss you. I really miss you, right? Ironically, I don't know if you noticed, but on Friday night, I did a Straight Talk show with my ex, Emily. And Emily and I were together for 5 years. When we met Mandy, we were together. And we did a show on Street Talk all about how to manage a relationship with your ex. And then Trish was also there. And that's a lot of what we talked about, is that whether it's your current lover or important relationship or a previous one, our pain is always connected to the love that we are missing.
Mm. I'd like to make a statement, and it's kind of like what's really tough is when you feel like you're pouring out the love constantly, but you're still dealing with the constant fears that manifest in different forms or triggers.
Yeah.
Like when you feel like you are trying so hard all the time to give the love and the reassurance and the affection and the intimacy, like give, but there's still just constant, challenges, problems, issues. Like that's when it's really hard to deal with. Like if you're, and I want to say people who aren't maybe as open-minded or spiritual or aware, or they're acting from, like you call it in your academy, the veils of past pain, your past wounding. And it could be as early as childhood, like how you watched your parents argue, or how you saw relationships when you were little, or how you were treated by your significant parent. If you were abused in any way or put down or abandoned, then it's like it comes out in your relationships, and it can just be this baseball effect where you're like throwing it back and forth at each other. It's really crazy.
It is really tough. And I just want to acknowledge how difficult it is when someone won't get off it. Now, again, we have to find that balance of having compassion that while this person's so afraid that no matter how much reassurance I give them, they're still running the jealousy story. They're still running the insecurity story. And honestly, at a certain point when you've given quality reassurance and the person still is running it over and over, they need therapy. They need to work with a professional therapist. And it's not best for a boyfriend or a girlfriend to serve as a therapist or as a coach, said from somebody who's a coach. It's because, look, we all have, like you said, my term, veils of past pain that run us. And all of us have these wounds that are deep. And then usually they happen when we were small, when we were little, and we created a reaction based on how a 5-year-old or 6-year-old thinks. But we've been running that reaction our whole life. So the moment we perceive the possibility of abandonment or rejection or being made wrong or criticized or shamed, any of those things, it triggers when we were shamed as a child and how we dealt with it, which is to lie or to go into greater shame. Oh my God, I really am dirty. I really am bad. I really am insignificant, whatever it might be. Or to do the opposite, puff up and act tough, act like it doesn't matter. Whatever. There's a lot of defense mechanisms that are childish because we created them when we were children. And so it takes maturity to go, wow, look at how I can become like a 6-year-old when I think you're shaming me, or when I think that you're gonna, you like somebody more than you like me.
I would say, like, when I went to Los Angeles for the 4.5 years, and I spent all this time and effort and money and work, like going to healings and therapies and healers and workshops, and really got higher consciousness and aware of my own wounds and did so much work. I feel like I have new trauma to deal with, but I know that I healed a lot of old trauma.
Yeah.
So coming back to Texas, it's almost like I'm in a whole different realm of people who wasn't exposed to all the stuff I was exposed to out, because there's just more opportunity out in LA for that stuff compared to here. But it's like I got so empowered in a way that and open-minded and aware that it's like I recognize abuse when I'm being subjected to it, whether people mean to or not, which most people don't seem to realize that they're verbally abusive or mentally or emotionally, but I am in a place in my growth where I recognize it immediately, and I can be a pretty good either calling person out on it in right away, or mirroring it. Like, and I will say, I am mirroring your crap back to you. Like, I know that sometimes people need that to recognize their own behavior. And because if people don't recognize their own behavior, how are they supposed to change it for the better? And we're all supposed to be changing for the better, right? I mean, that's evolution. um, at least that's the ideal, but a lot of people are on a downward spiral in a way, and they don't even realize it, maybe whatever their addiction is or whatever. But I don't know, I went off on a tangent, but I think you're good at following me.
Absolutely. And, again, you go off on what's important to you. And I riffing on what I heard you say, I really want to acknowledge how self-reflective you are, and I've worked with you. You've been part of my Relationship Essentials course. You've been part of Love Coach Academy, and you are very good, Mandy, at looking at your stuff, self-reflecting. You're on a very high-level growth path, and it's not easy, and it's definitely not always fun, but it's what makes you a good coach and a wonderful human being, and for the right guy, it's what's going to make you a great girlfriend and someday a wife.
Thank you. I feel like I've been through way too many breakups in my life. At this point, I'm just like, oh my God, it's too much. But I wanted to ask, I remember back in the day, you're probably going to remember this. Do you remember when I messaged you out of the blue and I was like, Scott, I've heard both of your breakup stories, and you had a very interesting duality of experiences. Like with one ex, it was like she wanted a really open relationship where she had other lovers, kind of right in your face, and it got a little too much for you, overwhelming, made you kind of feel bad, jealous, and it was kind of an extreme case. Yeah. But then, ended that relationship, got into another one, and it's like you had, galactic sex. It was a great relationship, but it was extreme opposite of this one, where it was like extreme monogamy and jealousy and like crazed possessiveness, and you can't talk to your exes, and like it was a huge, contrast that you were exposed to. And when you were telling me this story, I was just sitting there like reflective on it, like, man, Scott, you really got it like tough,
And listen, I got to be honest, I've been single since then. I've been single now. This is the longest I've been single in my entire adult life.
Yeah.
Because it's really true. It's like after both those experiences, it was like, wow, I'm not willing to go through either of those. I'm not willing to be with somebody who, is that jealous. And I'm also not really willing to open my heart to somebody that is that wanting to explore and be with a lot of other
open, in your face, open.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I remember asking you, I was like, so which did you feel was a more positive kind of experience? The one that was a little more open, or the one that was a little more controlling, jealous? And you at the time, you said, well, I think the one that was a little more open, we were going.
Absolutely. And look, it's all public, so I can say it was Emily. And, Emily is a great communicator. And Emily is really good at owning her part of things and taking responsibility for her part of things. Whereas the other person, who I won't name, I experienced as being very self-righteous and not willing to look at her part of things. It was all just blame, blame, blame. And so, whereas with Emily, we could talk about everything. And that's why we were able to last for 5 years.
And stay friends, and
we're still good friends. In fact, ironically, we were gonna be together tonight, and then I agreed to do the show with you, and the day just kind of. But she had invited me over for dinner, and we were gonna spend the evening together. So we're still very good friends, and that's the way it should be, Yeah. And I love Emily, and I will always love Emily. And actually, I always will love the other woman too. But sadly, the other woman, exact opposite. She cut off all contact, blocked me. When I've said, hey, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, no response. So again, there's two very different ways. It's like you're either fully with me the way that I want you to be with me, or I'm cutting you out of my life.
And that's your experiences being so contrast like that, and that was kind of the conversation I wanted to have. Like, for you, what would you think is more of the ideal? Would it be somebody who's kind of monogamous, devoted to you, but also you feel like you have a little bit of that freedom to explore or talk to your exes, or where they won't be threatened? Like,
I really love the word monogamish. Monogamish. And for me, my ideal, everybody has a different thing. For me, my ideal is that we save deep intimacy just for each other.
Sacred.
And, for sacred intimacy. So that would include intercourse, oral, and French kissing. Because those are the three very intimate ways that people can connect. But for heaven's sakes, cuddle. For heaven's sakes, when we're not in a pandemic and we're worried about that part of it, so let's just pretend that that's not part of the equation. Cuddle, hug, absolutely. We're mammals. We love homeostasis. But I want to be with somebody that I'm dedicated to her, and I'm not using sexual energy in a way to try and stimulate somebody. And I wouldn't want her using her sexual energy to stimulate someone, but certainly to cuddle, certainly to hug, certainly to have good quality conversations. And I would want her to have great relationships with her exes, as long as the exes treat her well and respect our relationship. That's really important, is for the ex to respect the current relationship and to be very clear about that. And then it makes it safe,
And I want to state to the viewers, we are talking about Scott's what he wants, and I really like what you would like to manifest.
Yeah, but that's what I would like to manifest.
As a disclaimer, I mean, there are all kinds of sexualities out in the world, all kinds of things that for different people, what would work for them. When I was running around, especially Portland, woo, those people are open there. Like, we're talking. So the big difference in the population, I would say, like spending a lot of time in LA and then some time in Portland, people in LA are pretty weird and colorful, but they don't seem as confident about it. But you go to Portland and they seem really confident and out there about who they are, what their sexuality is, and they will openly talk about it, and it's really, that was what I noticed just as an observer. So it was really cool that I got to have these personal experiences as take home, like, gifts of experience in my life, where I'm just like, okay, so I see how some people operate. I've been around couples who are so not jealous, incredibly devoted to each other. In fact, I want to have some of them on my show and just pick their brains. But like, they are so not jealous, that they have, sexual experiences with other people, and they're zero jealousy while they're doing it, but they'll have their own little sacred bond as a coupledom. Yeah. And I don't know, it's just really interesting. And especially when you get into the whole people who are like bisexual, but they still found their epic person lover that, they're married to this person, or this is their boyfriend, girlfriend, but they respect that person is like bi or something, and they want their other fix. I don't know the right word, but you know what I'm saying? They want their other lovers as fulfillment for their own soul and their unique sexuality. And it's just like what I seen, it just, I don't know if it opened my mind to the possibilities of the world, but at the same time, like I do want, the sacred partnership with unconditional love and acceptance. Like, I would love to feel that, but I feel like I'm easy to love, but also kind of hard to love in terms of my circumstances are hard to love, but and who I am. I'm like an angel and this and that, and like, it's some overwhelming for some guys probably to deal with.
You're very lovable, and you're high consciousness, and you need to be with a high conscious man. I want to say for a second, just riffing on what you said, because I've been around the polyamory world a lot. And you're right. There's a lot of, and I do know poly couples that I admire. They've got it together. And I think the key is if there's a strong enough foundation and there's strong enough respect, and there's clear, open, honest communication, and people don't cross boundaries that cause damage to the primary relationship. You know, those are all some of the essential qualities for polyamory to work in a way that's win-win, as opposed to, polyamory being an excuse for somebody to just have sex with other people and get away with it, right? Because
Yeah.
look,
There's a term for that in LA. They call it polyeffery, like with the F word.
right, or sport effing. There's, and there's people that are into sport effing, where they're not looking, but polyamory means multiple love. And so it's really where there is a emotional intimacy along with the sexual intimacy. And it can be beautiful, but it's very complicated. It requires very highly emotionally intelligent people. Usually it requires a lot of time for everybody to communicate with each other, get to know each other. It can't be done quick and fast. Not well.
Yeah. Well, and like every person in every relationship, things are always changing and evolving too. And people just have to be good at communication. And a lot of people who aren't good at communication they just end up lying because maybe they don't know how to communicate properly. And I think a lot of people lie because they don't feel the right threshold of safety. That like they may worry or fear of another person's reaction. They may worry or fear of hurting that other person.
Right.
There's a lot of reasons for that. Self-preservation, things like that. But for me, recognizing that issue, it's like a level of comfort, friendship, unconditional love that you would feel with a partner in order to be able to communicate, like you and Emily can talk about anything. A lot of people don't have that kind of a relationship or partner where they feel like they can share everything, how they're feeling or their sexuality or who they want to go bang or whatever. So, but if people can find that kind of communicator together, that's a really treasure to find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. And it's a blessing to have quality communication. And frankly, one of the reasons I am still single is I'm really spoiled. I want to say that in many, many ways, my relationship with Emily really spoiled me because we had such outstanding communication and we could talk about almost anything and we were curious and, she's a great compassionate communicator. And so she spoiled me, and then after what I went through, even though the person I was with was, older than Emily, she didn't have the communication skills. So I'm pretty spoiled, and also, to be honest, I'm super busy. And, as Trish tells me, Scott, you don't even have time to date. How could you possibly have time to have a quality girlfriend? So I was like, oh, yeah.
Well, it's because you became single that you became as busy as you have. You've channeled all of that relationship space into your work. And
that's true.
So
that's true. It's a good time to do it. I mean, it's COVID time and it's also, I really do believe this is when we all have to really tune into how does spirit want to use me? How does life, what do I need to do? Now, for some people, it is focusing on their relationships, definitely. People that are younger who are thinking of having children or have children, please focus on your relationship. Please get your relationship together. Please work with Mandy or one of our love coaches to get the tools and the practices necessary. Absolutely. I'm at a different time in my life. I don't have kids. My kids are my clients, really. And a lot of my clients have been reaching out for support and help at this time.
And Scott's a great coach, especially for the really maybe even more challenging or complicated relationships, because I really honor Scott's wisdom. He's got a lot you know, you even look like a Yoda, you know? I mean, like he has a lot of life experience, wisdom, and in the way you communicate. And something I really like about your coaching is you really strive to see things from both people's perspective. You try to have the love and compassion for both people in the coupleship, and you operate from that. And that's a really nice thing, that you try to not take sides, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, first and foremost, my job is to really understand each person. And if I'm having a judgment, to put it on the back burner, right? Because everyone is behaving the way they're behaving for some reason. They're trying to get some need met. They're trying to be understood. They're trying to protect themselves, whatever it is. And so, as a coach, that's my job, is to understand, even if someone's behaving in a really horrible way with a lot of hurtful consequences, why are they doing that? What's their patterning? What's their childhood background? What led them to that place that they behave in such a way? It's not because they're evil. It's not because they're bad. It's not because they are, anything other than a spiritual being having a human experience, and they're having a really hard human experience right now.
Yeah. I'd love to run through some of my specific questions.
Go for it. Okay.
What advice could you give people with an overly jealous or controlling, partner, or couples dealing with variants of jealousy related issues or triggers? If anything off the top of your head.
Well, the most important word is reassurance. Lots of reassurance. I love you. And then getting into the specifics. What are they jealous of? They're afraid that I'm going to leave you. You're afraid I'm going to love you less. That's usually what it is. It's a fear of loss. So we want to provide authentic, it's got to be real, authentic reassurance about whatever it is, the fear of loss, addressing the fear of loss. That's the most important thing.
Okay.
And to make it safe to talk about the jealousy. That's the other thing too, is to create safety for the person who's jealous to talk about the jealousy without being made wrong. And for the person, the other one, for them to be safe to talk about what's really going on for them. Because when we are afraid, we are less likely to be fully transparent or fully honest. So how many times have we seen a situation where Sally is really devoted to her boyfriend, but she still is friends with her ex? But the boyfriend, the current boyfriend, is jealous about the ex. So Sally doesn't feel safe to tell the truth that she's meeting the ex for lunch. And then the boyfriend finds out, and now it's World War III, right? Because there wasn't safety both ways, to be honest.
Right. Well, and on that note, sometimes people who are in situations with a jealous partner don't feel safe in any way, because maybe depends on that person's level of aggression. If they're like an aggressively jealous, like abusive type, that's a whole nother show almost, like to deal with that kind of fear and self-preservation, and and feeling like the lack of safety to just even talk about things or be yourself, or you're walking on eggshells all the time, worried that you're going to set the person off. I mean, to me, I think people should try to get out of those situations. And it's easier said than done.
Of invoking the 25th Amendment to try to get the cabinet to remove President.
I had put that on pause and it went off. Apologies.
Okay, next question. In your love coaching experience, you hear a lot about broken trust and cheating situations, because you brought it up on past classes. How often do you see couples overcome these things and stay together, or ever get back to harmony, like that kind of thing?
It can happen. And here's what needs to happen in order that. So let's say John had an affair and his wife, Sally, is just, we'll say Susie. John and Susie are married. They have children. And John had an affair and Susie's devastated.
Right.
Here are the steps that need to happen. A, both of them have to want to repair the relationship. They both have to want to repair it. big word, repair. That means that Sally has to be willing to understand why John did it. And John has to be willing to acknowledge the consequences, to understand, to really feel into his wife's pain, feel into her shock, her horror, and that the trust has been broken. And then they both have to want to rebuild the trust. She's got to be open to wanting to rebuild it and not use this over him for the rest of her life. But likewise, he can't expect it to be fixed right away. And they need to then work with the coach and get very clear on what are the steps to repair and the steps to rebuild trust. And then you would get into specific things, how John's going to change his relationship to the person he had the affair with, and all the dynamics. Was it a one-time at a conference drunken accident, or is it somebody that he's been cultivating a relationship with? So there's a lot of complexities, then you got to get into the specifics of managing. But I have worked with couples where there's been infidelity, that when all was said and done, they actually came through it closer because they understood each other more fully.
That's good. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I still feel like once trust is broken, that it's never the same, because personally, trust is one of those very strange concepts where it's like glass. You break it, like a vase, you try to put it back together, and it's just not quite the same. There's still the scars, the cracks, like, you know, it's created a veil of pain, and that could be there and cause a shadow of doubt. So it's like, it's almost like even if you do everything in every step, there's still that little memory of you broke the trust. And that's why I don't like the concept of trust that much. Is just as my own personal opinion, it's such a fragile human concept that people put so much weight into, and you get one shot at it, and if you screw it up, then it's never the same. And I'm like, and people will hold it against you sometimes the rest of their life. So it's like, I feel like, you know, it's a tricky thing. If you want to add anything to that opinion.
Yeah, well, I'll share with you as a coach a great little trick. What I do when I'm working with somebody whose trust has been broken is I take them through a creative visualization, and I ask them to imagine that their relationship is a cup, and I have them describe the cup to me. And then I say, I want you to imagine that this cup that represents your relationship has fallen off the table, hit the floor. Is it cracked? Is it broken? Is it shattered? And I have them describe to me what it is. And it's amazing. If it's a porcelain cup shattered into 1,000 pieces, it shows me that subconsciously that person is not going to be able to repair it. But if it's a thick mug and it's cracked, but still you can put water and coffee into it and use it, then I find that on a subconscious level, that's how that person sees the relationship. It's solid. It took a hit, but it's solid. And I learned, and I've given that practice or that visualization at least 100 times. And it's very, very insightful to me as a coach to get a sense of how somebody perceives the relationship and how damaging how badly broken, cracked, or shattered the relationship is by what happened.
Right. And so I remember you giving that once in one of our classes, and there was an alternative that some people saw in their head, was that the mug was just tipped over, and it wasn't broken or cracked. It actually could be rectified and refilled again.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting, alternative. So,
and a lot of it has to do with our childhood. I've worked with women, especially, where their father or their mother betrayed their trust and was never healed. And so someone like that, it's a lot harder for them because they have a deep down belief, I'm going to get hurt. The person I love is ultimately going to hurt me because mommy hurt me, or daddy hurt me, or my first 3 boyfriends all hurt me. So
my position.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, and that's something that you need to heal from. And that's why, if you're choosing a boyfriend, it probably is going to be really important to choose somebody who's got really good integrity, who's got a level of maturity that what they say they do, and that you can count on their word.
Interesting point. I still have a few questions, but we're running out of time. So let me get
Fire away.
How often do you think you see, I don't know how you would answer this, but how often do you think you see unconditional love in one or both of your, partners that you work with or couples?
I would say very rare. I'd say I see unconditional loving moments,
Okay.
but honestly, all adult relationships are conditional. All of them are. They all are based on an exchange. I will love you in exchange for you loving me. I will financially support you in exchange for nurturing me and taking care of the children. All adult relationships are built on exchange. Unconditional love happens between dogs. My dogs unconditionally love me, right? But adults don't unconditionally love each other. But they can have unconditional loving moments where your love for that person transcends the offense or the thing that happened. But ultimately, adult relationships are an exchange. And if the exchange isn't feeling fair at a certain point, it gets toxic.
That's beautiful. I really like that perception. You can have a lot more unconditional moments versus unconditional loving the person, because let's face it, almost everyone in relationships has some kind of problem with some behavior their partner has.
Totally.
It could run the gamut of, oh, you like sports and I don't. Oh, I'm into tantra and spirituality and you're not. Like it could just go off the rails, like you leave the toilet seat up and like, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
But I thank you for sharing that cool, thing to think about.
Great questions. I'm having a good time.
Yeah, I have a couple more. Are you familiar with the term and concept twin flame? And if so, do you have an opinion or a stance on that?
Yeah, I think the idea of a twin flame is dangerous because it sets up an unrealistic expectation. For most people, it creates this fantasy that there's some perfect person out there that it's going to be really easy with, and everything's just going to flow, and all I need to do is find that perfect person. And the perfect person, the relationships I know that are great, people have gone through tough things together. It's not always easy. Steel is forged by fire, right? So twin flames, and the people I know looking for twin flames tend to be very ungrounded, and they're living in a fantasy. And when we are trying to have a fantasy relationship, we're still kind of young, a little bit immature. And real relationships, I'm not suggesting be in a relationship that's constant hell. Find a relationship with certain qualities, certain essentials where you're really in alignment with each other. The big ones. Spiritual beliefs is a big one. Mutual respect is a big one. Certain values. But looking for a twin flame, because what happens is you find your twin flame and you're in new relationship energy and you're having great sex, and then you find out that he's a coke addict, or that she's an alcoholic, or that he's a pathological liar, or that she's financially destitute and doesn't know how to work, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like this big disillusionment. And when two people both looking for twin flames, they play into the fantasy with each other until it explodes. And I've seen that too many times.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I really wanted to believe in that, and then I felt like I was being constantly challenged about it, where it's like I would so strongly believe maybe this person was my twin flame, and I'm getting all of these signs. And then something I want to say about signs for people who are big on that is like, yes, absolutely, I feel like I've gotten in my face signs. But let's, for instance, you're driving on a highway and you see a lot of signs, right? Your signs don't necessarily like are your destination. They're road maps. And so you might actually end up following signs and then hit a dead end.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I felt like happened to me, really believing in certain people being a twin flame because I really wanted them to be in my head or something like that.
Right.
And I was following these signs until I'd hit a wall. And I'm like, so what happens when you hit a dead end and you're like, okay, this is not working for me?
Yeah.
You have to turn around and find another path and figure out another way. And so that's kind of what's happened, is like signs can lead you, and maybe they are there for a reason, to guide you to certain lessons in life, whatever those may be. And I don't know what the heck they could be for each person. I'm still wondering what some of my lessons were.
I really like how you talk about that, because it's not the sign as much as it's how we choose to relate to the sign and work with the sign, right? So that's absolutely right on, really right on. And the thing also is that it's a beautiful fantasy that there's a twin flame out there. It was a beautiful fantasy that there's a Santa Claus. Santa Claus is a wonderful story. Twin flames are a wonderful story, but it's not something to count on. Real relationship, mature relationship, requires quality communication, quality skills, really getting to know each other, not projecting the fantasy onto the other person. Do you want to be long-term with somebody who meets you and believes that you're this perfect street angel and you're absolutely perfect and you're never going to shit and you're never going to do anything wrong? You can't have a relationship with that person, because when you do go to the bathroom, when you do have a human moment, they're going to be disillusioned, right? You want someone who loves you for who you really are, not the fantasy that you're the twin flame. They love you because, oh my God, I love all of you, including the human parts of you, including the parts of you that you're challenged by. And we aren't looking for that in a twin flame usually. In a twin flame, we've got a projected fantasy. Harville Hendrix writes a lot about that with the imago, how we have an idea of what a perfect person is going to look like and be like. And nobody can possibly fulfill that.
Right.
It's a fantasy.
I've had a few insights in my own head that I had even prior, like, to the whole twin flame, like, thought, was like, I feel like relationships that we have are matches at the time that we have them for our evolutionary path. It's almost like, the relationship comes together, you learn and grow and evolve, and then you may not stay in the same alignment, which is why people break up, divorce, whatever. And then, you end up in another relationship. And I've heard people talk about the myth of the one. There are people out there that we've heard the love stories of people who stay together their whole life. They're from high school till their old 90s and they're dying together. And that's a really cool thing to hear about, but it's also pretty rare. I mean, most of the people that I know personally have had multiple relationships in their life, and and I'm one of them. And it gets challenging, especially at my age. And I'm just like, am I an old maid now, or what? Like, I don't know. But it's like,
so you're like half my age, so no, you're definitely not an old maid. But you're right. We have relationships that I am so grateful for. My relationship with Emily, it was the perfect relationship for both of us at the time. We both learned, we both grew, we created some really cool things together. We had good times together, and it was time for us to move on.
Well, and you created a lot of cool stuff with your Love Coach Academy and your workshops together. That was really beautiful and profound stuff.
Yeah.
And I love it when power couples come together and they create epic, beautiful things. There's this married couple who got together, and there's this mosaic house in Venice, in California. So you go to Venice. I don't know if it's open because of the pandemic, but this married couple and their beautiful love story, they were both into art, and they completely remade this house into this epic piece of art, all the way from the sidewalk to the outdoor to the interior. Look up pictures. I'm not kidding. Google the Mosaic House in Venice. It'll blow your mind. And they give you a little tour, and they say that it was their love story that inspired them to share this with the world, this art. And it's so you pay a little fee and you go in their house and you get a little tour, the coolness of it, and their huge art workshop, and they're always adding to their house. And it's like, I want that. Like, I want like a really like a partnership, and we do workshops together, and like we're co-creating something epic. Like, I always felt like my ideal partner is going to be somebody who's my right-hand man and with my mission, helping with this mission somehow, some form. My microphone's breaking or something.
Same. If only I was 20 years younger, Mandy.
Yeah. I know you have to go. So
I gotta go at 8:30. I've got an 8:30 call that I'd scheduled previously.
Okay. Well, if we can go ahead and say our goodbyes, and I want to just stay on the show and just promote a few things really quick, but I want to
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful I got to kick off season 4 and season 5, and I'm putting in my dibs. I'd like to kick off season 6. We can make a thing about it. All right.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Scott, for your time and being on my show. And this has had the most live viewers I've had in a long time. So.
All right, and I'll repost it, and we'll boost it. We'll repost it, and I'll boost it for you.
Thank you. All right. Well, God bless you. Let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye, Scott. Okay, everybody. So I'm still here. Let me just go ahead and share a few things with you. Because of everything that's happening in the world and everyone's so stressed out, I'm offering 50% off of a coaching session with me. It's actually a little over 50% off. So I'm offering a coaching session with me for $29. You cannot beat that. And if you think you can, I'll probably whoop your butt or something. I'm just kidding. But basically, you can choose the topic. It can be on your love life or love relationship, couple relationship questions. It could be about holistic therapies, because I have a lot of resources and tools. I could give you tips on holistic stuff. It could be life coaching, or or an angel card reading. And actually, that one has been really popular. Especially ladies love to get some of my readings on relationships and advice and stuff like that. So that's the special right now. You have to mention it that you saw it on the show, that $29 coaching session or angel card reading, topic of your choice with me. So also, I do in-person healing work if you're local to Texas, in San Antonio and stuff. So I do all these kinds of unique services you can look at on my website, thestreetangel.com. And but that's limited to people who are local. But anyways, I also sell some products. If you are interested in my healing CD, this is pretty special for people who, if you've got some deep wounding from your past, this is an amazing meditation to go through. It contains healing instruments that will balance you, mind, body, spirit, vibrationally, but also the higher consciousness verbiage that I walk you through from Holy Spirit cleanses through each of your chakras that you have. Old wounds and baggage and emotional crap you don't need anymore. And lastly, I've developed a romance relationship angel guidance cards. And they are finally ready for sale. They cost me a lot to design and build. These are not like tarot. These are not like oracle cards. These are actual, like a life tool that helps you tune into your inner voice and navigate your relationships, because every single relationship is a unique entity in this world, and it's always changing and evolving. So these cards are designed to kind of probe you, to get you to think for yourself and tune into your inner voice. What is it saying, and what do you need to do from that place? It helps you make choices. A lot of times with like tarot and oracle cards, They're just kind of telling you what's happening in the now and just reading the energies of what you already know, but it's just describing it through cards. These cards are different. These cards will help you navigate, like try to help you choose choices for your highest good, basically. So if you would like these angel cards, you have to contact me to request a deck. And I believe this is $25, includes shipping. These are going to be $40. I know that's a lot, but like I said, it cost a lot for me to design and order these for sale. So anyway, that is it for tonight. I'm going to be adding this show to my website. I have to make a new page for my season 5. And if anybody would like to drop me a comment, but yeah, I will be having future shows, so just be on the lookout for my flyers on my next future shows. All right, thank you for watching. I love you all. Thank you for the support and kindness. Have a God blessed night. Bye-bye.